Hello everyone, and welcome to RcHelpDotCom. I'm Tony, and today we're talking about power supplies. Now, as you get on in this hobby, eventually you're going to get more batteries, or you're going to get bigger batteries. You're going to get something that's going to require more power than your little bitty charger can withstand. For the last few years, this is the charger that I've been using, the iCharger B6AC. I've shorted this thing out and actually had to go in and replace the traces on the balance board, but the charger still works. I mean, you can pump that thing all the way up to 50 watts and it'll charge a battery, and it's not going to give you no troubles. It does get warm, but it's a 50-watt charger. Well, today we're going to remedy this. This charger is going to be retired and we're going to a brand new one. And this right here is what we're going to, the iCharger 306B. It's a 1,000-watt charger. You can charge up to 30 amps on 6 cells. Basically what this means is 306 is 30 amps, 6 cell. But for what I need it to do, the iCharger 306B is going to do everything that I need it to do. I've only got a few batteries that I fly right now, but we are going to get more batteries so that we can do more flying. That's just the way this hobby works. To power this charger, you need either a 12-volt power supply or a 24-volt power supply. If you're only using 12 volts, then you're only going to have a maximum of 500 watts available to you. You need at least 24 volts to have 1,000 watts. And because we want to charge 1,000 watts someday in the future, that is where these two power supplies come in. As you can see, these are just HP DPS-600PB power supplies. They're 575 watts apiece. They're more than enough to what we need for the charger that we have. What we're going to do today is we're going to take two of these power supplies and we're going to wire them up in series. But there's a problem when wiring up these two power supplies in series. If one of them happens to short out or it goes bad, if you have not properly disconnected the DC ground, basically it can flow AC current through the case. If the two cases are touching, it becomes a very dangerous and hazardous situation, and you really need to isolate the DC ground out of one of these power supplies. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. Now here's your little disclaimer. RC Help is not responsible for any damage to person or property that happens by you guys working on these power supplies. It is not our fault if you electrocute yourself. This is for demonstration purposes only, and RC Help cannot be found liable for anything. Please only do this if you have electronic experience. Be safe, guys. It's just like flying a big helicopter. You have to be safe when you do this kind of stuff. If you don't know anything about electronics, you can purchase these already made for about 50 bucks a power supply. However, if you can work on electronics, I purchased both of these without a power cord because I'm going to be rewiring everything, but I've also got power cords as well. You can purchase both of these for 30 bucks shipped right to your door. That is a killer deal for a 1,000-watt power supply. So what do you say we break one of them open and we disconnect that DC ground? Yes, you only have to disconnect the DC ground on one of them. Do not disconnect the AC ground. Now, about the only tools you're really going to need to do this is a Phillips screwdriver, a voltmeter so that you guys can check continuity, because we're going to have to make sure the DC ground is not attached to this case, and maybe a small pair of wire cutters or a flat bladed screwdriver. We have to break two wires within the case, which are basically fuses. We have to break those two wires to isolate this ground. Because we're only doing one power supply, you've only got to work on one power supply. What we need to do is we need to remove this screw right here, this screw over here, the three screws across the top here, this screw here, these across the top here, and then this one right here. All of those screws have to be removed. And just to make life easier, we're going to remove these 4 fan screws as well. Alright, once the fan screws are removed, pull this piece gently out and then up. That's going to expose this, which is basically rubber kind of cardboard type stuff. Now you can see why we took that fan out, because we can get the fan up and out of our way and we can actually pull this over more. This piece right here actually goes underneath the board. It helps isolate the board from the metal because there is AC current within this power supply. Alright, within the case we need to do two things. One, we need to remove this screw right here, and we need to break these two tabs on these wires right over here. Breaking the wires is as simple as putting a little flat blade underneath them and just popping them up. All they have to do is be broke. I would take the extra precaution after you break the sides up and cut the other side off. We'll just remove this screw, this screw will not go back into it. Now this little piece is just a piece that I cut off of that insulation that goes around this power supply. You can cut a little piece off, and then we have to isolate this ground from the case. Just gently pull it up and put that under there. Once we have the insulation underneath this board, we'll go ahead and break these two tabs right here, or the two wires. There's one, and then there's two. Now that we have those two pins broke, what we need to do is we need to check this thing for continuity. What we're going to do is we're going to put our ohm meter right here on this silver spot where that screw usually sits, and then we're going to go to the case. If you have continuity between this silver ring right here and this case, then there's something that's still grounding and you need to take care of the issue. So let's grab our voltmeter and have a look. Alright, now on your voltmeter, you want it down here on the ohm symbol. This is where you're going to check continuity. So we'll go ahead, we'll turn it on. We're going to put one prong just right here on the case, and then we're going to put the other one down in here, right on that silver. Right there, I have no continuity. Now as a precaution, the negative lead is still on where that screw goes in on the board. I'm going to check right here. Nothing ever moved. That's telling me there is absolutely no DC ground on this power supply. This wire right here is actually your AC ground. Alright, now to make 100% certain that we keep that broken ground, what we need to do is take epoxy or hot glue or something, and we need to fill this hole up to where there is no way that this piece right here can move, and we know it's going to be isolated. I'm just going to stick my hot glue gun down in there. I'm going to squeeze some hot glue until I see it coming out the bottom, and then I'm going to put it up here on the top. That way I know none of that stuff can come out. And if you're on RcHelp, you're probably into building some sort of foam planes. You have a hot glue gun. And then all you got to do is just let it cool. Once it's cooled down, you should have a puddle that looks something like that. And it is still not connected down there to that metal post. You do not want this thing touching. I can't stress that enough. You do not want that ground to come back, because if this power supply goes bad, then we're going to have voltage streaming through the case. Now since we covered that hole up, we need to check the continuity again. What we can do is right here, these right pins that are sticking up, we can just put our deal on there, and as you can see, we still have no continuity. If I touch these other pins, obviously it's going to go to ground because that's connected to this screw back in here. But right here, there's no continuity at all. According to what my moderator GABA tells me, that is going to render this power supply safe. If you guys would like to see a write-up on how to do this, come on over to the forum. Cool Gabsy or GABA has actually done a write-up on this, and it's a really good write-up on how to do this. And he has the exact same disclaimers that I do. But if you would rather read it and actually see pictures rather than watching a video, come on over to the forum and just read the post. It's linked below this video in the description. Now all we got to do is put everything back together. Put all the screws back in the fan, and then put the case back together, put all the screws in, and tighten everything up. Once we have the power supply back together, now we need to make this thing turn on. Remember, this was in a server, and the server tells it to come on. What we need to do is this bottom left pin, the next one up and over, and then this short pin right here. Those all three need to be shorted out. There's also a fan mod that you can do, and that is taking this number 4 pin right here and shorting it to this ground pin right here. So this one, this one, this one, and this one. Again, there is a write-up, and you can see the picture right here on your screen of exactly how you need to short these out. The green line is the fan mod that actually turns the fan down. If the power supply still gets hot, it's still going to override it, and it's going to turn this fan on full blast. And when these things go full blast, let me tell you, they are loud. The easiest way that I've found is exactly what GABA did, and that is to short these out with just a simple servo connector. I'm sure you guys have those laying around somewhere. You will have to take these pins and kind of bend them up just a little bit so that the servo connector can actually fit on them. Then you just plug the servo connector onto them. Once the servo connector is plugged onto them, then what we need to do is solder these together. I'm going to do a more permanent fix than this, but for right now we're just going to use a zip tie and hold these pieces together. Once we have these pins shorted out, now we can go ahead and plug our power cord in. As you can hear, it's not exactly the quietest power supply in the world. Now on this power supply, these two spades over here are going to be your ground. These two over here are going to be your positive. What we need to do is we need to connect to one of the positives, one of the negatives, make sure we're getting 12 volts. We're getting 12.43 volts. That is perfect. Now just as a demonstration, let's go ahead and short out that number 4 pin, which is the fan. As you can hear, it gets much quieter. Release it, goes right back up. Now if you're going to be running two power supplies, this power supply over here does not need to have the DC ground messed with. Only one of them needs to have the DC ground removed. On this one, all we have to do is jump those 3 wires. And once we have our second power supply jumped across like this, we can go ahead and plug it in and test it out as well. As you can see, it turns on, so let's check the voltage. Got 12.45 volts right there as well. Now that we know that both power supplies are working, we can go ahead and put some bullet connectors or solder wire directly onto it. For me, I'm going to use 4mm bullet connectors. Alright, and with the bullet connector soldered on, we got our jumper wire run across here. Remember, the jumper always goes from positive on one to negative on the other, then this and this become your positive and negative. This is what it's going to look like whenever you run things in series. So what do you say we turn it on? Remember, we had 12.47 volts before, so we should have a little over 24 volts now. Let's plug them in and power them up. Now again, they're not the quietest. And there we go, we got 24.9 volts. And since we did the ground mod, they can actually touch. And it's not going to hurt them. So what do you say we get that charger over here, we get it powered up. Alright, well as you can see there, we're at 25.03 volts coming in, and we're at 28 degrees Celsius on the internal temperature of the charger. Alright, well as you can see, I've got two 2200 3S packs run on my parallel board. The parallel board is actually from EP Buddy, and I got a really good deal with the charger and the parallel board all combined. Now those two packs, they're each one rated at a 2C charge rate, which is 4.4 amps. Both of them together is 8.8. We're going to raise that up a little bit, and we're going to go to 10 amps whenever we charge these packs. Alright, we're going to go to LiPo balance charge. And go all the way up to 10 amps. And then push and hold. Checking the battery. And we're charging. That's packing some milliamps into them pretty quick. Imagine what I could do on a 5C charge rate. Alright guys, and there you go. As you can see, 17 minutes and 56 seconds to fully charge these packs. I'll go over here. They're pretty much balanced. That one's at 419. It was at 420 a little bit ago. It put in 2242 milliamp in 17 minutes and 56 seconds. So there we go. And that pretty much completes this 1000-watt charger build. Like I say, as long as you guys break that DC ground, it's safe for those cases to touch each other. Yeah, the fans are a little bit loud, but you can do that mod where you jump number 4 pin to the ground and it'll shut those fans right up. In the next video on these chargers, I'm going to be sticking these things inside a case with some acrylic, and we're going to make a really nice carrying case for the charger, the parallel board, and the power supplies. So I want to thank you guys for watching. If you guys need help with building these power supplies, remember, if you guys can't do this, if you guys don't have any idea what goes on with electronics, please don't do it. Like I said before, RC Help cannot be found responsible if anybody gets hurt. I cannot stress that enough. You do this at your own risk, but please guys, be careful. There is a lot of voltage in these things. If you guys have any questions, you need help, you want more information on this setup, come over to the forum and post up. We're there to help you guys out. I look forward to seeing you on the forum. I want to thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video.